4:15. Welcome everyone to today's special meeting of the Water Pollution Control Authority. Today is Tuesday, May 2nd, and it is 4:15. Present, we have Nancy from the commission, Nancy, Joe, Tom, and myself. We have posted an agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda that's been posted? Seeing that there are none, welcome Ron Drew. We will proceed with the one item in front of us today, which is to hear, consider, and adopt a bond resolution entitled, quote, "A resolution appropriating up to $11 million for the costs associated with the inspection and construction phase of the East Trunk Line Replacement Project, recognizing a grant of $3 million from the state of Connecticut will reduce the bonded amount to $8 million. Oh, great. We have Bill Hurley as well.
Yeah, hi.
Joe.
Hi.
So moved. Motion moved.
Motion moved by Joe.
I'll second it.
Tom. Okay. I saw Tom first. Okay. So, John Bodie, I'm gonna ask you and Bill Hurley to bring the commission up to speed on where we stand with this, and open it up for discussion.
Bill's probably the best one suited to do that.
Okay.
Bill, can't hear you.
You're muted, Bill.
Kind of do
Looks like his
two
phone.
things at
Okay.
the same time.
Thanks, Bill.
You might recall the town received a $3 million grant application called Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant. So that's a $3 million grant, and it went through all the boards approved. So that will certainly help with this project. And just have to, once I get a feel of, I'll be honest with you, if the WPCA ends up approving it and the Board of Finance approves it on Thursday, we will approach Cardinal and the other one, which I'm gonna offhand say Ty and Bond, but I might be wrong on it. I have to check. It's been a couple of months. Where we give them the go ahead, especially Cardinal, to update the plans and find out if there's any changes in utilities, any major changes in the site plan, things like that. At one point the Cardinal was going to charge us, and I'm just coming up with a number out of my, but 50,000 or 30,000 to do a complete survey of the latest thing. But that area really hasn't had too much change in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think I'm willing to kind of take a chance that we don't have to have a new complete survey for that, unless there was significant utility change. And then we should be able to get that information from the utility. So that's basically what we could do. And I could even have their surveyors or someone from our office basically drive up and down and just see if there's anything that's different than it was, a few years ago. So we would then have Cardinal update the plans just in case any codes or whatever changed, and then put out what we would call, close to bid documents. If this commission thought it was a good idea, it sounded like the Board of Selectmen did. Again, it's going to cost, maybe it's going to cost $10,000 or $5,000 to have them do a updated budget, cost estimate or cost of what do they call it, the estimate of probable costs is what they use nowadays. Then we would have them do that. But I did not have them do that last year or the year before because it was such a wild card of prices. They could have come up with whatever number and it didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? So if that's something that you guys think is a good idea, I don't know if you have to vote on it, but certainly let John know, and we can include it in our scope of work for Cardinal. And then, as you know, we anybody who didn't listen, we had a 14 points that was presented. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. I'll just recap where our probability or reliability of the costs. We had 900,000 set aside for contingency, 7.9 million for construction, 850,000 for inspection, and that's the inspection, services. and it would include it as built. 50,000 for a remediation. I'm going to call that minor remediation. You might recall we had Ty and Bond do 25 like borings, and then I think we did. I think it was Ty and Bond or D&B had done even additional borings in that area. So I think we're pretty good on that. There still may be a surprise. You never know. But right now, I was gonna put it in my grading of there might be a small amount of contaminated soil, but right now it does not appear to be hazardous material, which obviously escalates cost. And don't forget, this sewer is 25 feet down or 20 feet down. If someone had something they wanted to get rid of, usually you go in those days, they went into a swampy area where they could shove it and then fill it. In terms of digging up a roadway to bury it, that's fairly expensive. And I'm not going to say that there's none, but based on our testing, there'll be some, but not a major part right now. That's all the testing that we have. And then 40 to 300,000. So there's a little bit more contingency in there for updating the engineering plans and utility plans. In order to have the utilities work quick, we may have to elect to have them, pay for some of their work. Right now, I'll give you an example, Duck Farm Road Bridge. By state statutes or whatever, the town does not have to pay them a penny to relocate their lines. The state pays them 50%. Well, if they want to do a new line on their own and they're making, 3.2 times overhead, they're going to work on that project before they work on our quote free project. Duck Farm Road, the utilities took 6 months. So, that's what we're going to try to avoid here. Luckily for this one, I believe we're only dealing with the two major utilities being gas and water. And we have the plans that show if there are any other ones. On Grassmere, I do know there's electrical UI on that one, but for the Dalewood and Kenwood, I believe it's just those two utilities. And then so from there, that was 40 to 300,000 for updating those plans. And then we even included extra money for testing. It seems like no matter what, as you encounter something, if it's not quite what you thought it was, you get it tested. And so we have some money for that. And we upped the amount. Now the grant, when we applied for the grant, it was a 50% grant, and we were hoping to get up to 5 million. And so at that time, the estimates were around 10 million. So that's where the original request was, coming from, I'll say last year. Since then, again, just covering us, we wanted to make sure we had everything, cover even a little bit of a surprise. We upped it to 11 million. And another reason for upping that is, like I was saying before, the project could take 14 to 18 months. So rather than figure, 14, or let's take an average 16, I believe that figure, being up to 11 would cover the 18 months. And again, the 18 months, you're not just paying for the contract, the contractor, if there's any daily or monthly fees, you're paying for the inspection. And then depending on the location, you're also paying for like police and things like that, or maintenance and protection of traffic. So that's incorporated. So that was another reason. But hopefully that's enough cushion for us. I honestly think it is. But, until we open up the bids, we truly don't know. So that's my recap for that. Just going, and John, if you were, I think you were here. There was an October 19th meeting where one of the proposals was to bulkhead the main line and construct the new line. And by doing that, that's pretty much the cardinal plan, I believe. The second option, which was discussed at the October 26th meeting last year, was to line the existing 33-inch sewer pipe. And then there was a constriction of a 30-inch line. and we would take that out and either put a 33 or a 36 in. And of course, line that section if needed. We would have to do further analysis for that. And Mega, who's here but hiding from the camera, she had her recollection was that if we line the pipe, you lose 2% of the capacity. Was her estimate, or somebody had provided that. Versus if we did the new pipe, it's 15 to 20% gain with the new 36-inch line. So you gain some versus losing capacity on that. Me personally, whichever way you guys want to go with it is fine with me. If you, again, part of updating the plans, if that meant, again, it might be a little bit of a delay, but having a company just confirm that the pipe can be lined and all that kind of stuff. That there's, John, I believe this line has been cambered or no?
No.
Part of it might have been, I'm not
Not
sure.
all of it. Okay.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I could be wrong on this, but my recollection is for lining the pipe, if you had like maybe a quarter of an inch or a half an inch, disjointed, the lining should be able to cover that. But if it's like a 2-inch offset somehow, or there's a hole, or I remember you saying one of the manholes, and it might even have some pipe, has a big tree on it or in it and tree roots. I'm not sure, how lining works with that. You'd have to probably remove the tree and do some remediation, work for that. I shouldn't say remediation, but reconstruction work.
yeah.
And so that was option 2 that was being discussed. And then, as you know, we were looking at directional drilling and, some doing some of the other trenchless technology. But later learned that wasn't as feasible. And so we're really, I think, back to the 1 or 2 options. And so that's my recap. And John, feel free if I missed something or if you wanted to input anything.
Let me go to Jared, and then
Oh,
I
okay,
know
Jared's got
there's
his
a
hand up.
number of process questions.
I just, and that's one of the things I wanted to add was with respect to process, Mr. Chair, and make sure that there are no surprises in the future. I know Bill did talk about going to the Board of Finance on Thursday. This is a new authorization, so it's going to be required to go to the RTM as well. And so they have their committees meeting on the 15th of May. And then they have the vote on the 22nd. So I didn't want there to be any. I know Bill is probably tired of presenting things and may not want to go to the RTM, but unfortunately, I think we're going to have to do that.
And Jared, thanks for reminding, excuse me, everybody, the 15th and the 22nd, it's a little bit early, it's a week earlier than usual because of the Memorial Day. That's why it's a little bit sooner than usual.
Okay, a question from Matt.
Didn't we rule out the lining option given the capacity constraints? I thought that was kind of a deal breaker because that's a
thought so,
bottleneck
Bob.
in the system.
I thought so too, but did you formally do it? I don't know. That's
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That
Let's
was about
formally right now
6
rule that
months
out.
ago.
Yeah, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure. I thought that we'd kind of, I mean, I appreciate the background of all the alternatives. I know obviously trenchless had been ruled out as technically infeasible.
Mhm.
And then I thought that we had ruled out lining as just based on the capacity. It doesn't really work for us. So,
Okay.
but thank you.
Can we talk about the lateral? I'm gonna ask a question, then go to Joe. Can we talk about the laterals on Kenwood and where we stand with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Go to PDF though. Here
see
on
where
the icon, you had it open. Yeah, that's a map.
Here, this one project. Yeah, I gotta blow this up. Is there a way I can share screen on this?
Yeah,
No.
you can.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, show it to me. Share.
Hi, Mega. We can see you now.
Can you guys see the screen? Share.
Yeah,
She's like the
Yeah,
groundhog,
Yes.
there we go.
now we can see it. Yep.
Yeah, so you
Wonderful.
can see- Good. So these are the plans you may want to go to the last page or front and
Well,
start with this, the eastern
yeah.
line and go.
All right, yeah, so as you, do we have, actually, while you're here, do we have an update on the wetlands? Is it in purchasing's hands?
Yes, now it's in purchasing hands. We received the CD grant, all the reviews today.
Oh, okay.
And, it's now in purchasing, so they should be posted
Okay,
soon.
we couldn't start the bidding, process, because we had to confirm, it's 750,000, but we had to get a verbal, actually, we ended up getting a written
Written,
approval, to make sure that our contract includes, certain, I'm just gonna say, Davis Bacon or prevailing wage, whatever requirements that they have, Charo or something like that. And so, they provided us with that, and they copied our purchasing agent, they'll make sure that that's in the document there. So with that information, I'm thinking that I would think that next
this
week,
or next.
what's today even? Tuesday? I don't
Tuesday.
even know.
So hopefully this week. they
Yeah,
post
the
it.
end of this week or early next week, yeah.
Monday they should
Yep.
post it.
All right, so then let's see, if we go, here,
So
the
start with the
page,
east-
yep,
So this is where the connection goes with the East Run Clyde.
yep,
So
and
you
then
then go up
go here,
and then.
connect, and then
yes.
go along, so now the next
Yes,
page,
so
there
now
we go.
following this
Keep
page,
following
look
that.
at
The black and white dashed line
The proposed.
is the proposed. The slight magenta or pink line is the existing, and you could see from manhole, I'm gonna just say TB 6 and 7, somewhere there to TB 1. Those are test borings, but at least gives you an idea. That we would have to take that out. I think we,
That's what they have written,
yeah.
crossed out in the cross section.
the other section from there, by TB 7 to the left of the page, all the ones north will be still tied into the existing line. And then we just have to do a small connection between the two manholes. The ones on the south, it's a little bit different. Most of these have their laterals going out towards the Ash Creek. So the original proposal did not have it because, believe it or not, when we were well, I shouldn't say we, but whoever had figured the 2.5 or 3.7 million dollar, that was too expensive to even include for that. And so since then, we still haven't included those tie-ins. So they would have we would provide chimneys or laterals where they can tie in. Certainly somebody with a new house might elect to tie in, but also being the demographics and the economics of this area, there might be some people that in the next 10, 20 years still won't tie in. I would propose from a cost standpoint that we keep the existing line in and we do either minor repairs or even just sleeve it with, say, an 8-inch line or something like that. Or leave it the way it is and just do very minor repairs as needed. And you're only looking at like 8, 10 houses that would be tied into the existing line. By bulkheading it, the quote trunk line would follow the new 36-inch line. And that's what you would normally do anyway with any drainage or sewer pipe. You just bulkhead the beginning connection and usually leave it alone just in case there's an unknown tie-in, or some undocumented tie-in. Or in this case, if these people they didn't have the money and the WPCA didn't want to, provide that cost to have them hook up, then we would leave that line alone. And I think
I think there was consensus within the commission at a recent meeting to leave those tie-ins alone.
Right, and that's what I thanks for reminding. I would recommend doing that. And if by some reason we are actually a little under budget, you can always go back and say, you know what, if we have, I'm just going to make up a number, 300,000 left over, we could maybe do a 50-50, or we could offer one time only, before we pave the road or whatever. Although if they provided laterals, you don't have to worry about that. Sorry. That you could tie in and then maybe do it that way. Or you could say, well, we'll do the outside work, but any interior plumbing is still on the homeowner or something like that. Incentivize it. But that's something you could possibly do a little bit later or after the
Okay.
project. So that
Thank
would
you,
be
Bill.
my suggestion. Sure.
Let me go to Joe, who had a question.
Oh, I had a number of questions. Bill gave us a wealth of information. Thank you, Bill. I believe we've decided on, and I think Matt reiterated it, I'm not the engineer, but a new pipe, 36-inch. We also decided to keep, as long as we could service those houses south of Kenwood through the existing pipe. Is that all included in the $11 million? If those two assumptions, a new pipe and keeping those people connected, they have the capability to go through their old pipe. Bill,
I would say yes. And that might be one of the reasons why, as I said, we bumped it from the 10 to 11 so that we can do a little bit of investigation if need be, or, in my opinion, as I said, and I'm just going to exaggerate, but if there was a 10-inch hole in the pipe, 400 feet down, I think we'd want to repair that, especially if we're going to let people still use that pipe, try to eliminate SSOs. And if nothing else, it does take, 8 of them out of the new 36-inch, but obviously the 36-inch could handle it if they did switch.
I'm not interested in the residents switching and the liability to the commission on that. But can we CCTV that existing pipe behind them to determine the quality of it?
No, because of the sediment buildup.
Okay. Yeah. Meg is pointing out that the
Sediment, so
they
technically,
only did a partial, like John mentioned, due to the sediment buildup on top of one of the lines or a section of the line.
yeah, so they couldn't do the whole line because of the sedimentation buildup. So they did the camera was not run across the rear side of the property from 33 inches to 30 inches restriction because of the sedimentation buildup, according to the Chris Rogers, who was the former inspector.
But we're only talking about 10 houses max going through that pipe once the new pipe's in place.
Right.
So
Yes.
that pipe would have the capacity,
Absolutely. Right.
even if you can only have 8 inches of it working with that
Right.
sediment.
Right. If it's
Okay,
filled with half,
fine.
you still have plenty.
Fine.
It was really just as a way of removing any SSOs or any, leak into the ash.
Okay. So Bill, while you were giving your presentation, you talked about 850,000 in the 11 million for inspection.
Yes.
It was my understanding that 850,000 was for the owner's rep. Are you using those interchangeably,
I
or
think
do we
so.
have?
Yeah. That would be to verify the construction. That would be to
The
write
oversight.
any reports and include an as-built. So yes, I believe just a different terminology.
You just used a different word on me. Yep, not a problem.
One I think is more building related, and the other is more site work related. But yeah, they mean the same thing for the most part.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, because I don't know whether we have in the town, we have a lot of things going on, whether we have enough capacity in the town engineering department to oversee the project. I'd like to see it done outside and you
Yes.
coordinate it.
Right. Now, what we would have is I would assign, most likely, one of our engineers worked with the sanitary sewers in Bridgeport. And so I would assign, as a matter of fact, he's the same one that's doing the Carriage Drive sewer.
Oh,
And
okay,
have him be kind of like the town liaison to keep an eye on our consultant or owner's rep, and then fill out, you always need paperwork filled out, stuff like that, change orders approved. And so we would be able to provide that, but we would not
Okay.
be able to provide somebody 8 hours a day out there looking. There's no way we have that. So if that answers your question, I hope it does.
it gives me a point of reference at least. And then the last thing was just a point of information. This commission did approve $40,000 in October to update that design,
Right.
which I assume is outside the 11 million. I mean, you keep referring to the 40 to 300,000 in the 11 million. I think it's a different 40,000 that if you could.
I put it in as part of that grant. again, figuring, if we, the
My
more
point,
we,
my point being, if you can use that 40,000 pre this 11 million for the bond, you have that at your disposal.
okay, yeah, and that's
Okay.
a question, if John Bodie, if you guys already, meaning PCA approved it, that 40,000 should either have a PO or at least an account, and then we can, yes, withdraw that and start moving. That's correct.
John, that was October 22's meeting.
Right, I remember. I don't know if it went to the boards for approval. It might be still sitting out in limbo.
Even at 40,000, that might be,
Why
you
why
might
does the
be right.
40,000
and
go to the
When
boards?
we applied for the grant, we put it on hold, and that's why we haven't gone forward. Is Jared still on the line or no?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm still on. It didn't go through the boards. I don't know. Was that coming out of your operating budget? What was that?
No, that was fund balance money.
Right.
I
Okay, so
don't,
they
I don't
can-
remember that going through the boards.
No, I don't think
But
it
I could-
has.
Bill, has that work been done?
No.
And then my
Um,
question is, should it go through separately outside this 11 million if you need it?
Or, I mean, I'm just posing it out there, since we, I have it in the 14 points, that 40,000, Joe, remember?
Yeah, no, I know.
Once we get it approved on hopefully May 22nd, if everything, worked out, then basically we can now, I would think, legally use that 40,000 and not have to go through the boards on a separate fund balance. But that would be my quick and easy way, but I don't know legally if, I would think it's okay, but we'd probably have to check with either Jared or the town attorney.
I just thought it'd give you a benefit, giving you the 40 right now if you had to do something with it, but
Oh, absolutely, because we got to get Cardinal going, because who knows,
Right.
I'm hoping that they
right.
can move on this quickly, but one never knows. I don't know their current workload.
Well, if we got to go to the boards, I think
Yep.
we've lost that advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
all I had, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
I mean, since you'd have to go through the boards, I would say use the 40,000. So now we have 11 million minus 40,000. And then if you needed that 40,000, you just go back again and just say, we need 40,000. It's doing the same thing. One's just before the project, one's after.
yeah, my preference would be to just go for the full amount rather than having two separate presentations and conversations.
Right. I agree, Mark.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it's
right
a
and
small part of
confused.
the overall project.
yeah, I sense that we'll get some traction for the $11 million today. I'm just scrolling here, seeing if any comments, questions. Yeah, the owner's rep was first and foremost with me. I drive by Duck Farm Bridge 3 or 4 times a day, and and I realize, I mean, those delays are mind numbing to
Yes, they are.
residents, and they kill budgets. So
And you're absolutely right. And believe it or not, you might not realize, but we actually have owner's rep there, and we have to basically pay them 7 extra months of minimal, I'm going to use the term minimal work. It's very frustrating.
yeah, so
We had a great winter.
how do we avoid that here?
I don't know if
I
you
mean, what
can.
have we learned from Duck Farm?
The only thing I would, just to let you know on that, Mark, is they still have the same deadline. There was an extension because of the utility delay, but they still have the same deadline. I think it's September 3rd. Otherwise, they get hit with liquidated damages. So that little bit of delay on that end, we still have it covered. We had to extend it. I think the original project was supposed to be done, I'm going to say 3 months before that, but we had to grant them the extra days because of the utility delay. The only thing I could say on that is if we have the utilities do the work first before we pay the owner's rep, You know what I mean? That would be
There you
a
go.
way of saving a little bit of money. Or have the owner's rep with the understanding of, since it's utility work and we're really not involved, maybe once a week swing by for a couple of hours and just make sure they're not, relocating a line that's now going in our way. You know what I mean?
Matt, what do you think?
I think at some point we had talked about trying to have owner's rep cover two different projects simultaneously, didn't we? Was it this and wetlands?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
possibility. We could look into that. Don't quite know scheduling, but one of the incentives we could do is for the wetland crossing. Because that's a separate RFP. This RFP is for the construction.
Right,
And
right.
so we have to, I think we at least have a short list on that. So we can ask for proposals and then include that, this may include the east trunk line or something like that. And then that's our little carrot. If they do a good job inspecting for the wetlands, then, we could have them, and we'll have like a little 4 to 6 month preview head start. Then we can see if it's feasible to do both. And maybe we save a little bit that way. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we keep that in our back pocket, and still, I
Right.
mean, obviously we should go for funding, assuming we have to cover full
Oh,
construction
yeah, definitely,
inspection.
because we
Yeah,
don't know that. And,
right, exactly.
and combining it, again, we don't know for sure. And if we find that the wetlands, this person has to be there a full 7 hours a day or 8 hours a day, then they can't do both. But if
Right.
we find that they're there really, 4 or 5 hours, then, they might be able to do both, especially since they're so close together.
Yeah.
When you say they have to be, are we talking in terms of like our requirements for them, or are there either grant or state requirements for on-site inspection?
It's a combination of both, but mainly our
Okay.
inspection needs, with the exception of with the East Trunk, there's a couple of, when they have to do a supportive excavation, we have to hire a special engineer for
I
that.
remember that, yeah.
And then there was another, there might be another one that we have to have somebody. But if they're just, I don't know, just doing either general excavation nowhere near the cap and that kind of stuff, or they're installing or doing a little bit of work where it's only 2 hours a day, certainly we could have them do that. And then in days where the next month I'm going to be really busy, most firms should have like a backup inspector, and then maybe we could do that for that time. Which would be another reason of when we go for that, try to say that the firm should be able to provide up to 2 inspectors during the extreme busy times. And then that way it covers us. Also covers us that if, the way engineers are right now, everybody, after 3 months, they leave and find something else, So that kind of covers us that way. If the prime inspector decides to leave, at least we have somebody already familiar with the project.
Yep.
So. No, all good questions though.
Yeah. Nancy, I can't see you. Do you have any questions, comments?
I don't, having sat through this yesterday at the Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen meeting, I was just really
God
waiting
bless you.
for this group to weigh in. So I don't have any additional questions.
Thanks, Nancy. And as you know, this is a little bit more detailed. For the Board
Yeah.
of Selectmen, normally you don't go into this because otherwise the meetings would be 4 hours long.
Right.
Yeah.
And you yesterday addressed the questions that I had raised, Bill. So, about the connectivity and the
Mhm.
plan. So those were sort of the major outstanding issues. And then the differential between the initial 10 million versus 11. So I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. Tom or Ron?
I had one question. John answered that, so I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good too.
Ron, I just want to compliment your shirt. I love it.
And
Yeah.
just know, for whatever it's worth, this passed unanimously, understanding that the only way it would be valid is if the WPCA approved it, because it's contingent on that bond approval. or that bond
Uh,
resolution being drafted here.
I'll say we've been talking
Adopted.
about this for 7 or 8 years, and with Bill and Mega, finally having the firepower internally to move this forward, it's only going to get more expensive. If we waited another 7 years, it'll probably be double. My sense is this is a fair amount of the I&I that's coming into the system is coming through this section of town. So.
One thing that's worth noting too, sorry to interrupt, as kind of a side comment, a few times during the meeting yesterday, it was the issue of, raising rates being one of the ways we were going to spend against or be able to increase against the spend down. And we've all talked about how that's not a feasible or realistic plan. And we kind of have to get around the idea that we are going to have to spend down. But Tom Flynn did bring up again, Joe, the need for that overall financial plan. Jared had mentioned that you had talked about it. But, just worth commenting that a couple of times it was mentioned that the counter was to raise rates, but that doesn't seem like a tenable solution, but.
Well,
That's
look,
the editorializing.
our rates are about 30% below surrounding towns. This is probably, in my personal opinion, the most important project that the WPCA has in front of them. Whether it's 11 million or 10 million, it's going to be net 7 or 8. We have 15 million in cash. I'm seeing if Joe flinches when I say this. We need to do this project, and
I don't think it was a discussion of that. And I think the first selectman emphasized that. The first selectwoman emphasized that. It was more kind of a tangential comment that we are going to have to spend down. So one of the ways in which we were going to counter that in terms of an overall plan was to raise rates. But again, to me, that's not going to raise them enough to counter what we must spend because they're long overdue.
I think you're looking at a combination. Raise some rates.
During the meeting, I just reinforced the idea that this is on the WPCA's capital plan, and that while there may be changes to it in future years, there certainly will be. Everything that you guys have on there for 2024 is affordable in the long run, and can be is supported by the plan.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jared. I think the average bill is somewhere between $350 to $400 a year per sewer user. You compare that to your cable, your electric, your water, it's good value.
Or 35,000 to 50,000 for a new septic system.
Exactly.
One thing I just wanted to comment also is hopefully by doing this and the East Trunk, and you mentioned reducing some I&I, I'd like to think that would help us in the good graces of our clean water or fund for Long Island Sound or whatever, the agency that John and I both shrug when we hear that they're in the area, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I put a big spotlight on this one.
Yep. That because I know they made Ridgefield or Wilton, one of those towns do a significant amount of sewer work, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah.
6 miles worth.
Yeah.
And Mark, to your point, this is just going to get more expensive if we push it back. So I really see the need to do this at this point in time.
Yeah. I came onto the commission, I think it was 2 million estimate. So. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Or motion to Joe?
I have 2 process questions, please.
Sure.
Should we modify this motion to absolutely say it will be a 36-inch pipe, a new pipe installed, and we will keep the existing line in place to service the residents impacted with the line relocation? Should that be included in our motion?
I think that's an excellent.
The only thing I'll ask
I'm
back,
sorry, everybody's talking. I missed that.
Nancy.
Sorry for interrupting. The only thing I would ask back is that the Board of Selectmen approves very specific language. So I would wonder then if we would have to go back, if there's any amendment or change to get approval from the Board of Selectmen. So that would be my process
I'm not
question back to
changing
you.
the number, Nancy. I'm simply clarifying the scope. And it was because Bill brought up, I guess, all those options. And I guess that our minutes will reflect it. Our minutes could reflect the fact that it's going to be a new 36-inch pipe and we're not. How's that?
Yeah, the 11 million covers the scope that we discussed. I mean, if we approved 11 million and then lined it, lining's not going to cost 11 million. So,
Right. That's why I wanted to clarify.
right.
Okay.
So what is our solution? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I think we just have to approve the dollar amount. I mean,
Okay.
Bill's going to bid with these drawings, which convey a new 36.
My blanket.
Okay, and it'll be in our minutes. I'm comfortable with that. The other
Yeah.
process question I have is going to Jared. Should we amend the motion to include an MOU?
No, you don't have to do that because the MOU just is really an administrative thing between us and
Right.
John Bodie. And so it's just, it's a signature.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Is there somebody want to
Motion to
put forward motion to accept the motion as presented? Is there a second?
It's on the table.
I'll second.
Second from Nancy.
Wait, point of order. The motion was on the table with a second prior to this. What are we doing?
I thought that was a motion to discuss.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Not the way it read, but okay.
All right,
It's the same motion, no problem.
okay. Sorry.
So the motion to approve came from, I just want to help Sheila out with that. Did that come from Tom?
It did.
Tom, and the second came from Nancy. Okay, comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Ron says aye. Okay. It's an excellent discussion. Nice job, Bill and Mega. So
Thank you.
really appreciate you moving this forward.
Sure. Thanks, Mega. You know,
Great to have
the
you on the team.
silent partner
Really-
that you don't see.
It really is.
Oh, we
Wonderful.
saw her. Tell her we
Yeah.
saw her.
A lot of work went into this. Let's
All right,
roll.
but then,
Okay.
you guys are invited on Thursday, Board of Finance, right? For, this. And then the RTM later.
All right.
Very good.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn from Matt, second from anyone?
So
Anyone?
moved.
Yeah.
Second from Ron. All in
Oh.
favor?
Aye.
Wishing everyone a terrific afternoon. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Jared,
Yes.
presumably you'll be at the Board of Finance. I just think it's worth noting, and I'll tell Lori separately, just that it was unanimous.
Okay.
All
Yep,
right.
I will be there.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Sheila.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.